Okay, so I wanted to show you the end of the last chapter because I got cut off like the last sentence. So so Will, after deciding that he wanted to continue to be a ranger instead of joining battle school, which I thought was a very brave move of his, he was walking back through the crowd and everybody was cheering and clapping and recognizing him. But the biggest thing the biggest surprise for him is that he saw Halt at the end of the hall, and Halt was smiling actually for like the first time forever. So pretty big deal. Here we go. Epilogue. Later that afternoon, after all the noise and celebrations had died down, Will sat alone on the tiny veranda of Holt's small cottage. In his hand he held a small bronze amulet, shaped like an oak leaf, with a steel chain threaded like a ring at the top. "It's our symbol," his teacher had explained as he handed it to him after the events at the castle. "The ranger's equivalent of a coat of arms." So I want to show you a picture. So you can see Halt here. He's wearing that oak leaf right there. That's a symbol of the Rangers. Then he fumbled inside his own collar and produced an identically shaped oak leaf on a chain around his neck. The shape was identical, but the color was different. The oak leaf Holt wore was made of silver. "Bronze is the apprentice color," Holt told him. "When you finish your learning, you'll receive a silver oak leaf like this one. We all wear them in the Ranger Corps, either silver or bronze." He looked away from the boy for a few moments, then added, his voice a little husky, "Strictly speaking, you shouldn't receive this, and you shouldn't have received it until you passed your first assessment, but I doubt anyone will argue about it, the way things have turned out." Now the curiously shaped piece of metal gleamed dully in Will's hand as he thought of the decision he'd made. It seemed so strange to him that he had voluntarily given up the one thing that he had spent most of his life hoping for. The chance to go through battle school and take his place as a knight in Castle Redmont's army. He twirled the bronze oak leaf on its chain around his index finger, letting it wind right up to the finger, then spiral loose again. He sighed deeply. Life could be so complicated. Deep within himself, he felt he had made the right decision. And yet, way down deeper still, there was a tiny thread of doubt. With a start, he realized that there was someone standing beside him. It was Holt, he recognized as he turned quickly. The ranger stooped and sat beside the boy on the rough pine planking of the narrow veranda. Before them, the low sun of the late afternoon filtered through the luminous green leaves of the forest, the light seeming to dance and gyrate as the light breeze stirred the leaves. "Big day," he said softly, and Will nodded. "And a big decision that you made," the ranger said, after several more minutes' silence between them. This time, Will turned to face him. "Halt, did I make the right decision?" he asked finally, the anguish clear in his voice. Holt placed his elbow on his knees and leaned forward a little, squinting into the dappled glare through the trees. "As far as I'm concerned, yeah. I chose you as an apprentice, and I can see all the potential you have in that role. I've even come to almost enjoy having you around and getting under my feet," he added with the barest hint of a smile. "But my feelings and my wishes aren't important in this. The right decision for you is the one you want most." "I always wanted to become a knight," Will said, then realized with a sense of surprise that he'd phrased the sentence in the statement in the past tense, yet he knew that a part of him still wanted it. "It's possible, of course," said Holt quietly, "to want to do two different things at the same time. Then it just becomes a matter of knowing which one you want most." Not for the first time, Will felt that Holt had some way of reading his mind. If you can sum it up in one thought, what's the main reason you feel a little disappointed that you refused the Baron's offer? Holt continued. Will considered the question. I guess, he said slowly, I feel that by turning down battle school, I'm somehow letting my father down. Holt's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Your father? He repeated, and Will nodded. He was a mighty warrior, he told the ranger. A knight. He died at Hackham Heath, fighting the Wargles. A hero. You know all this, do you? Holt asked him, and Will nodded again. This was the dream that had sustained him through the long, lonely years of never knowing who he was or what he was meant to be. The dream had become reality for him now. He was a man any son would be proud of, he said finally, and Holt nodded. That's certainly true. There's something in his voice that made Will hesitate. Holt wasn't simply agreeing out of politeness. Will turned quickly to him, realizing the full implications of the ranger's words. You knew him, Holt? You knew my father? There was a light of hope in the boy's eyes that cried out for the truth, and the ranger nodded soberly. Yeah, I did. Didn't know him for long, but I think I could say I knew him well. And you're right. You can be extremely proud of him. He was a mighty warrior, wasn't he? Said Will. He was a soldier, Holt agreed, and a brave fighter. I knew it, Will said happily. He was a great knight. A sergeant, Holt said softly, and not unkindly. Will's jaw hung open. The next words he had been about to say frozen in his throat. Finally, he managed in a confused voice. A sergeant? Holt nodded. He could see the disappointment in the boy's eyes, and he put an arm around his shoulders. Don't judge a man's quality by his position in life, Will. Your father, Daniel, was a loyal and brave soldier. He didn't have the opportunity to go to battle school because he began life as a farmer. But if he had, he would have been one of the greatest of knights. But the boy began sadly. The ranger stopped him, continuing in that same kind, soft, compelling voice. Because without taking any of the vows or the special training that knights have, he lived up to the highest ideals of knighthood and chivalry and valor. It was actually a few days after the battle at Hackham Heath, while Morgarath and his Wargles were fighting their way back to Three-Step Pass. A sudden counterattack took us by surprise, and your father saw a comrade surrounded by a troop of Wargles. The man was on the ground and was within a second of being cut to pieces when your father took a hand. The light in the boy's eyes had begun to shine again. He did? Will asked, his lips just framing the words, and Holt nodded. He did. He left the safety of the battle line and leaped forward, armed only with a spear. He stood over his injured comrade and protected him from the Wargles. He killed one with the spear, then another smashed the head of the spear, leaving Daniel with only sorry, it's taking so long to load. Okay, I'm just going to switch to my book. That's ridiculous. Leaving Daniel with only a spear shaft. So, use it like a quarterstaff and knock down two others, left, right, just like that. He flicked his hand to left and right to demonstrate. Will's eyes were intent on him now, seeing the battle as the ranger described it. He was wounded then, as the spear shaft broke under another attack. It would have been enough to kill most men, but he simply took the sword from one of the wargles he'd killed and struck down three more, all the time bleeding from a massive wound in his side. Three of them? Will asked. Three. He had the speed of a leopard. And remember, as a spearman, he had never really been trained with the sword. He paused, remembering that day so long ago. You know, of course, that there's almost nothing that wargles fear. They're called the unminded ones. And once they begin a battle, they almost always finish it. Almost always. This is one of the few times I saw wargles afraid. As your father struck out to either side, still standing over his wounded comrade, they began to back away. Slowly at first, then they ran. They simply turned and ran. I have never seen any other man, no knight, no mighty warrior who could send wargles running in fear. Your father did. He may have been a sergeant, Will, but he was the mightiest warrior I ever had the privilege to watch. Then, as the wargles retreated, he sank down on one knee beside the man he'd been protecting, still trying to shield him, even though he knew he was dying himself. He had taken half a dozen wounds, but it was probably the first that killed him. And was his friend saved? Will asked in a small voice. Holt looked a little puzzled. His friend? He asked. The man he protected, Will explained. Did he survive? Somehow he thought it would have been a tragedy if his father's valiant attempt had been unsuccessful. They weren't friends, said Holt. Up until that moment, he had never laid eyes on the other man. He paused, then added, nor I on him. The significance of those last full words sank deep into Will's consciousness. You, he whispered, you were the man he saved? Holt nodded. As I said, I only knew him for a few minutes, but he did more for me than any other man, before or since. As he was dying, he told me of his wife and how she was back at their farm alone, with a baby due any day. He begged me to see that she was looked after. Holt looked at the grim, bearded face that he had grown to know so well. There was a deep sadness in Holt's eyes as he remembered that day. I was too late to save your mother. It was a difficult birth, and she died shortly after you were born. But I brought you back here, and Baron Harold agreed that you should be brought up in the ward until you were old enough to become my apprentice. But all those years, you never... Will stopped, lost for words. Holt smiled grimly at him. I never let on that I had placed you in the ward? No. Think about it, Will. People are strange about rangers. How would they have reacted to you as you grew up, wondering what sort of strange creature you were? We decided it would be better if nobody knew of my interest in you. Will nodded. Holt was right, of course. Life as a ward had been difficult enough. It would have been far more so if people had known he was somehow connected to Holt. So, you took me as your apprentice because of my father? Said Will. But this time Holt shook his head. No. I made sure you were looked after because of your father. I chose you because you showed you had the abilities and the skills that were needed. And you also seem to have inherited some of your father's courage. There's a long, long silence between them as Will absorbed the story of his father's amazing battle. Somehow the truth was more stirring, more inspiring than any fantasy he could have made up over the years to sustain himself. Eventually, Holt stood up to go, and he smiled gratefully up at the grizzled figure, now silhouetted against the sky as the last light of day died. I think my father would be glad I chose the way I did, he said, slipping the bronze oak leaf on its chain over his head. Holt merely nodded once, then turned away and went inside the cottage, leaving his apprentice to his own thoughts. Will sat quietly for some minutes. Almost unthinkingly, his hand went to touch the bronze oak leaf symbol hanging at his throat. Faintly, the evening breeze carried the sounds of the battle school drill yard to him, and the non-stop hammering and clinking from the armory that had been going on, night and day for the past week. They were the sounds of Castle Redmont, preparing for the coming war. Yet strangely, for the first time in his life, he felt at peace. The end.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. So, guys, I want to talk to you about a couple things. So, if you like this book, now there's a whole bunch of these books, but I highly recommend reading the next 3, actually. So, as you know, Morgrath is on the rise, and this book didn't end that well. And so we're still going to learn about Morgrath, and they're going to have to fight him. Also, you're going to learn more about Will, and you're going to learn more about Horace. Each are going to have big roles coming up, as well as Holt. So the next 3 books are part of the story arc that finishes up this story that we started. Then the rest of the books are also really good. They're but yeah, there's different adventures of Will. So I highly recommend if you get a chance to read them, because they're really good. So having said that, this week I wanted to point out something to you in our invitations. So I'm going to share screen again, so to show you something I want you to see. So this is called Biblionasium, and what it is it's a website that I made accounts for you guys, and so I sent it in the invitation today. So what this does is this is a way for you to recommend books, and also for other people to recommend books to you. So we made one group for the entire 5th grade. So all of 5th grade can get on here, and they can recommend books, they can read book reviews, and suggest books to you. So as you're looking for books to read, you can come here and you can look to see what other people have recommended. Okay? And so I haven't gone on here a whole lot, but I want to do that, and I'm actually going to start recommending some books too. But if you're ever looking for books to read, this is a way to find some books that other people are reading. You can make comments. I think you can chat a little bit, but you can comment on other people's books that they've read, and really it's a way for you to connect and see what books are out there. So I encourage you to get on there and to learn about this website, and find some books that you want to read. Okay?
Oh my God.
So the other thing I wanted to let you know.
How do you get onto it?
Oh, sorry. I sent you the link in the invitations this week. Okay? It's biblionasium.com, and your username is your same username for everything else, and the password is Cook2020. No, this one, the password's 5th grade, since it's the entire 5th grade. Okay? So yeah, check it out. Hope you like it. Hope you find some books that you want to read. Okay? The other thing I wanted to share with you is, so the district has said that we shouldn't be using Zoom anymore, and so they want us to use a different program called WebEx. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be learning more about it, and I'll send you guys more information about it, but we're going to start that next week. So this week we'll continue on Zoom, and but starting next week we'll get on WebEx, and you'll find that it's pretty similar, but that's why I want to learn more about it, to make sure it's set up so that we can still do all the things that we want to do. Because I really like that, I like the read loud portion, but I also like the opportunity you guys have to socialize. You don't get to see your friends very much, and so this is a great way for you guys to socialize and hang out. So I want to make sure you still have all the same functionality. So so that'll start next week. Yeah. So I think that's all the things that I wanted to do. I did see a big group of you filled out the end of week reflection, and that was so great. So great to see what you guys are learning, what you're working on. Sounds to me like math was not super successful. So I'm going to try to find some more resources for you to help explain customary measurement and metric measurement. So I'll try to get that out to you tomorrow, because a lot of people mentioned that it was confusing, it was hard to understand. So I'll try to find some other things for you to get more comfortable with that. Okay. So that's what we'll be doing this week in math, is we'll do measurement again, and keep working on that. And then next week we'll start something else. Okay, science. I don't know if you saw that, but in science, we're this time of year, what we would have been doing is we would have been working on forces of motion, learning about Newton's 3 laws of motion, and getting ready to go to Flight Center in May. Of course, all that's been canceled, but learning about forces of motion has been a lot of fun, and it's a really fun unit that I want you guys to learn about. Yeah, I'm sad too, Olive. But I hope that you enjoy these different lessons. So there's a Bill Nye video that you can watch. It's really fun. And then there's some other videos and resources to learn about forces of motion. But the part that I'm excited about, or towards the end, there's a design challenge for you guys to build a roller coaster at home. Probably not one that you're going to ride on, but more like a Lego one or whatever. But yeah, check out that design challenge. And if you don't have the materials at home like it recommends, come up with your own, and try to create a roller coaster. And so, okay. So that's just some things that I wanted to point out to you. And if you make a roller coaster, please make a video. Send it to me. I'll upload it on our website so people can see your videos, or take a picture, that sort of stuff. I'll start uploading that stuff so that people can see it. Okay. You can either email that to me, or you can post in the Google Classroom. So, sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for me?
Yeah. Can we read on that site as well, or is it just recommendations?
Okay. From what I understand, it's just recommendations. Now, yeah. So that's just recommendations. Sorry, what, Brooklyn?
On Epic, every time I try to click on my thing, it'll tell me grab a parent and sign up, or pay this much money to sign up, or do it, and then it won't let me go in.
Yeah.
So
this one, you're already signed up. You already signed up, and you're in there for free. Epic Books, I have you signed up for that one as well, and so you should be able to get into that one free. That one you don't have as many. I was looking at, there's not a whole lot for us as much. There's a lot of picture books on there, so that one's okay. I go to so you know how I had Ranger's Apprentice up? I got that off the district website. So, and I have the directions in there. It's called Follett Shelf, and you can go there, and they have more books for us, that we like to read, that are available to you. The Mesa Public Library, the library itself is closed, but they have online books that you can download. That's typically how I read my books. Is I don't get paper books anymore as much. I just get them online. If your parents have Amazon Prime, this is something I learned this weekend because I was looking for Artemis Fowl. online, I found that since I have Amazon Prime, I'm able to get access to a lot of Kindle books, or basically electronic books, and so that's how I'm going to read Artemis Fowl. Is that I have that up on that I got from Kindle Unlimited, I think. Okay, so something to look into if your parents have Amazon Prime, which a lot of people do. So, and also,
Well, that one worked.
okay,
Not knowing this was gonna happen, so I'm like,
what?
I left my book at school not knowing that this was gonna happen. So that was kind of nice.
Well, I've already had several students reach out to me, and I have no problem going. I'm right at the school now. I have no problem getting people's books and dropping them off at your house if you need me. Okay?
Okay.
So, Brooklyn, is that what you need me to do?
I don't want it to be too much trouble.
No, Mr. Oliver said it's okay for me to go into the classroom and get what I need and get out. I just can't stay there for very long. So, but it's not a problem for me. Most everybody lives pretty close, and so I have no problem. And even I know, Caleb, you live in Gilbert, but I'm happy to bring a book to you if you want me to. Okay? So, Brooklyn, what are you reading?
No, I don't.
Brooklyn, what are you reading?
It's called Higher.
What?
I like now. I'm kind of reading kind of all over the place because I don't have many. I'm kind of reading all over the place.
I'm asking, what book do you want me to get for you? Wizards for Hire?
Yeah, I was reading it. I'm pretty sure it's in my desk.
Okay. That one I know that one you have access to that one online.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I look around. Since that's Mrs. Kuhn's book, I want to ask her first, make sure it's okay for me to check it out to you. So,
Okay.
but try to find it online. If you can't, let me know, and I'll ask Miss Kuntz and see if it's okay for me to get that for you.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Anybody else need anything from the classroom that you need me to drop off? Okay. Nope. Okay. Any questions for me about the activities this week? No? Okay. I'm excited to see what you guys do. It was great to read what you guys have been reading about. It was so cool, the different things that you were learning and writing about this week. That was awesome, and I'm excited to see what your different things you're going to be doing with this science and learning about force of motion. This is pretty fun, and so I hope you have a good time at home learning about that stuff. Okay? Well, I'm going to go ahead and drop off. You guys have a great day. Feel free to stay on as long as you're allowed to. And have a happy Monday.
Bye. Have a good day. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye. Do you want to play Roblox?
And they're riding their bikes and they're rubbing it in my face.
Bye, Brianna. My mom.
So
Still
bye.
homework.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh,
Bye, people.
Charlie, why are you leaving?
My mom said I couldn't play. Oh. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.